Podcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
I can see a lot of people still logging in. We're going to take just another minute or two. Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, depending on where you are, and welcome to the Esri Land Administration webinar series, What's New in Parcel Management. I think it might have been advertised what's coming in parcel management, but it is what's new. This is what we're offering, what we have available today. Here's a list of our past land administration webinars and the tentative ones for the rest of the year. We design and shape these based on your feedback, so let us know what works here and what doesn't. All of our webinars in the past are recorded, so if you missed one, we can get a recording out to you. Today's webinar is What's New in Parcel Management. Many of you know that we released the Parcel Fabric in ArcGIS Pro at the 2.4 release earlier this summer. It's already experiencing a rapid uptake, and we have a lot of additional tools to help you out, specifically the Land Records Meetup and the Land Records Place on GeoNet, and we'll talk about that a little bit later in the webinar. I'm Brent Jones, the Industry Manager for Land Administration here at Esri, and presenting with me is Dan Stone. Many of you may know Dan if you've been involved in parcels over the past 20 years. He has an extreme amount of experience with parcels, and we're fortunate to have him with us today. Here's a summary of the agenda for today's webinar. We have a brief discussion of ArcGIS and then how ArcGIS enables valuation, public engagement, and parcel management capabilities. Then we'll turn it over to Dan for a deep dive into parcels and ArcGIS Pro. And at any time during the webinar, if you have a question, please type it in the chat window or in the questions window. GIS delivers powerful capabilities within your organization and across multiple organizations. Land information, property characteristics, and parcels are needed by nearly every agency in local government and many in state and federal government. This foundation data is used on GIS projects and in our offices, but it's used in mapping applications for zoning, planning, emergency services, and many other municipal functions. It's used in the assessor's or valuation office, in the field, and for all types of analysis. GIS delivers the capabilities to use, share data in many ways, all on a single platform. ArcGIS integrates all types of data. Often we use imagery to supplement our base maps. We integrate CAMA data to leverage the spatial analysis capabilities in ArcGIS, along with many other data types. Exciting in the world of parcels is the 3D integration, LiDAR, seamless import from BIM, which enables 3D cadastre and valuation capabilities that many assessors and valuers have been asking for. Whatever data you have, it can be integrated into your GIS and combined with other data for analysis, visualization, and sharing through web services, apps, portals, and hubs. ArcGIS delivers value by managing and analyzing land information, from valuation leveraging location to mapping underground utilities and marine offshore leases. And of course, what we're here to talk about today, parcels. ArcGIS enables three critical systems in land administration: the system of record, the system of insight, and the system of engagement. It's all in a common platform, eliminating the need to keep disparate systems in sync. We've all had the version incompatibility of custom and interconnected systems, but we don't need to worry about that. The system of record delivers a complete solution for editing and managing parcels and cadastral data. The system of insight delivers advanced spatial analytical capabilities for calculating value and understanding land value trends. And the system of engagement delivers a secure data sharing system. You can control who you share data with, what they get, and what they can do with the data. This is extremely powerful. All three systems are interconnected on a single platform. ArcGIS has many analytical tools to help assessors and valuers improve values and detect errors. Advanced analytical capabilities like geographic weighted regression and machine learning are all available in the familiar ArcGIS user interface. You can easily perform many types of exploratory analysis, test your models, and visualize your results using maps, charts, and graphs that all work together. You can improve field efficiency by scheduling work, optimizing routes, eliminating paper, and have a holistic view of where your work and your field workers are. There's a great book just published by IAAO, the International Association of Assessing Officers, that goes into detail the uses of GIS for valuation and has some good case studies. It's available on Amazon if you're interested. Public engagement is an ongoing, evolving exercise. Just like paper maps and property cards are no longer expected, websites that are hard to use and cumbersome are as well. And of course, everyone expects the data to be current and available on mobile devices. Public expectations are a moving target and will continue to move. Maintaining strong public engagement helps reduce appeals. This can be done through many configurable apps, maps, and the ArcGIS Hub, a modern portal to the public designed to share data and engage the public, private sector, academia, nonprofits, to help with specific policy initiatives and transparency. We'll have more on this in future webinars, but in the meantime, don't hesitate to engage us if you have a current need. And now parcel management, why we're here today. We want to improve efficiency, accuracy, and to share authoritative data from the source and have one version of the truth. With ArcGIS Pro, you can configure your own workflows, although it comes with most of the workflows you probably need. You can eliminate duplicate tasks and have as many editors working on it as you'd like. Because it's COTS, there will also be standardized training coming later this year. Dan is going to go into a lot of detail, but the Parcel Fabric in ArcGIS Pro is based on web services, which has a lot of benefits just in how the platform is designed. Whether you're in the Parcel Fabric in ArcMap or want to use the new capabilities in Pro without any Parcel Fabric experience, Dan's going to give you all the details. But before I hand it over to Dan, I'd just like to summarize that ArcGIS enables and optimizes all critical land administration workflows, beginning with data collection in the field, to efficient and secure parcel management workflows, to modeling analysis for valuation and visualizing results for uniformity, compliance, outlier detection, and communicating appropriate data with internal organizations and the public. For each area, robust data management, advanced analytics and visualization, dashboards, and smart mapping are core enabled capabilities. Now over to you, Dan.
Thanks, Brent. Let's see here. Can you see my screen?
Yep, looks good.
All right. Thank you, sir. Good day, everybody. I'm here to discuss what's new in parcel management, specifically with ArcGIS Pro. So, it helps to understand where we've been to understand what's new. So, if we start looking at the solutions that Esri has done for decades, it goes back to ArcInfo back in the 80s and 90s. This is where I first started doing land record management. And we had something back then known as the coverage format. And the coverage format was great for mapping land records and parcels. It had a COGO component, which meant I could take a description produced by a deed or a surveyor and accurately put that into my system. It was great, but it had some limitations. Didn't have a support for true curves, and we always had that problem with the back lot line. How do I keep attributes on one parcel and attributes on the other parcels that accurately describe that boundary. Then in about the mid 2000s, around 2004 to be exact, we had ArcMap 8.3, which brought geodatabase topology. And with that topology, we could start now mimicking what we could do in the coverages as far as lines must be covered by the boundaries of our polygons to make sure that everything was coincident. And at that same time, there was a publication, GIS and Land Records, that was produced by Nancy von Meyer. And this had a lot of good information about how to best organize your land information, such as what was the PLSS, what was simultaneous conveyance, what was the conveyance division, and the tax parcels. This all led to the ArcMap parcel fabric, especially with what we call the local government information model. So the local government information model brought a lot of the data modeling that Nancy had done in the GIS and Land Records book, but it also solved the true curves, also solved the backlot problems, brought a lot to what the challenges that we had experienced from back in the 80s all the way to the present had been haunting us. So it came up and brought with it all that particular technology, which has led us to the Pro Parcel Fabric, which builds upon all that previous data model and takes the best from each one. So within the Pro Parcel Fabric, we support multiple editing workflows. So regardless if you're mapping out tax parcels or possibly oil and gas leases or tenure like ownership rights, we have a data model that, as Brent said, maintains the system of record. And with that system of record, we want to be able to track what caused this parcel to become into being. So why is this parcel here? It was some transaction. I had a large parcel that I wanted to split the southwest corner out of. Well, there was a legal document that I conveyed that information. I had a surveyor come out to find those boundaries, and that document is the legal document that got recorded. I want to be able to record that document or be able to reference that document against this parcel. And that's really the requirements of our record-driven workflow. But in addition to that, we realize that there may be times that you have a need to improve upon the quality, and that is our quality-driven workflow. So for instance, I may have a line out there that is made up of a segmented arc rather than a true curve. At any time, I want to be able to go in there and update that, and that leads to our quality-driven workflow. Speaking of quality, quality is really something that drives trust within our data. So we want to be able to improve upon that quality. And this is something that the Pro Fabric actually does. In ArcMap Parcel Fabric, we were able to go and find particular parcels that had an error associated with it. The only way we could do that, though, is run a parcel check command that would actually list out a series of object IDs, and then I would have to go search the fabric. With the Pro Fabric, we actually can zoom and highlight and click on particular errors, just like we would with a topology error. And we might be able to even right click and have a particular fix for that particular error. So the parcel quality is something that we've really improved upon within the Pro Parcel Fabric. Historical parcels. This is something that we've always wanted to maintain. Again, going back to the days when I maintained parcels for the county, I would take the parent parcel and I would copy it off to a historical coverage so that I could see what had happened in the past. The ArcMap Parcel Fabric took that a step further by, when a particular merge or split was performed, automatically create parcels historically. We're taking it a step further with the Pro Parcel Fabric in that we are actually capturing the global IDs that actually caused that parcel to be retired. So if a split is performed, the parent parcel, the global IDs will be captured to the child parent or to the child parcels, and that way we can actually start mapping out the parent-child relationship between those particular parcels. Another thing, if anybody's done any sort of land record mapping, we find that often the legal description does not match what's actually in the physical world. There's a lot of different reasons this can happen. Errors that were captured out in the field, the types of instrumentation that was used, many things can introduce these errors that would make a legal description different from the physical world. But as technology is improving, we want to be able to take advantage of that so that as we are able to get better measurements from the physical world, we want to be able to bring that in and enhance the quality of our parcel data over time. So an example of this might be getting a new control point that is collected out in the field and bringing that into my fabric to accurately adjust the corner point of my parcel to meet that new control point. Likewise, since we are creating that system of record, we want to be able to defend that parcel description against its legal source. And that's where we bring in the record features, which are the footprint of that legal transaction. In the ArcMap parcel fabric, we had something known as the plan. And the plan described the legal record or the legal source that caused that parcel to become a parcel. What we're doing in the Pro fabric is we're actually taking that information and we're making it spatial so that we can actually see the spatial extent of these records. And depending on where you are, there's many different ways to describe land. It may be through meets and bounds, might be through an area description, might be a combination where going along this particular direction and distance to the shoreline of the lake, and then along the shoreline of the lake back down to a boundary that then goes along another bearing and distance. So we've designed the fabric to work with many different land descriptions anywhere in the world. And then lastly, it's robust and scalable. So whether you're only editing parcels maybe 50% of the time in a small rural county, or you're a nation that is managing the cadastral system at a national level, the Pro parcel fabric will be able to scale from the small end to the large end. So what are the deployment options that we have associated with this? Well, in the current release with ArcGIS Pro 2.4, you can either deploy a single user or you can deploy a multi-editing environment using the enterprise. So with either one, it does require a standard or advanced license. With the single user, it's out of the box. There's no extension needed to get started. You can go in there and begin creating a parcel fabric and modeling your parcels today. On the enterprise, it does require an enterprise installation of 10.7.1. It does require multi-user editing with named users. And the big change is that we are now editing the data against a web service. So we're no longer connecting directly to a database. We connect to the web service, and we actually perform the edits against the web service, including creating versions. So I can come in, create a version, perform my edit against the web service, reconcile, post, and then that data is immediately available to anybody who has access to that web service. The other thing that we're trying to bring with the Pro parcel fabric is configurable workflows. And I want to talk about two different types of workflows here. There's what I call macro workflows and micro workflows. And macro workflows, I'm going to call high-level workflow. And that describes the entire process that is in place at your organization. So for example, maybe there is a workflow when a new deed is processed. So the first thing I may want to do is I may want to come in and receive that document and do a document review. Maybe I'm just checking to see if that deed closes. If the deed doesn't close, maybe I send that back to the developer or to the surveyor and say, this deed isn't closing. We need you to, double check your work. If it is something that does require a map update, then I want to be able to go into the mapping system. I want to, create a version, create the job. I want to start ArcGIS Pro and perform my edits, QA/QC the work, and then perform an update to our camera system and complete the job. So maybe it's not a map update and we just need to go update the camera system. So this is kind of a high-level workflow, and I recommend using something like ArcGIS Workflow Manager to actually perform this. We've used this in many different projects that we've done in the past. What makes it nice is it is an enterprise workflow management system that's scalable. It can help automate and simplify many aspects of your GIS. So when we were getting deeds from the recording system, we were provided a export from the recording system as a file, and that file had a couple different attributes. So we had a script that would read that file, create a job for each deed type, and actually capture some of that information, such as the grantor, grantee, instrument number, recording date, as what we call extended attributes to that particular job. What's nice about Workflow Manager is it also supports non-GIS work. So if there's a step in here that I need to go off and call another application or business system, I can actually do that and incorporate that in my workflow. The other thing it does is it standardizes and documents your workflows. So now if you have new hires come on, or if you have staff that is on vacation and you have a temporary employee in there, as long as they can follow these workflows, they'll be able to perform the job, and you'll know that you're getting the consistent results. And it also provides reporting to management. So from Workflow Manager, we can see, how many jobs have been done, what were the job types, who performed those jobs. We can actually start getting a lot of metrics on the work that we're actually doing. Again, this is what I call a high-level workflow. When we start thinking about the micro aspect, I'm going to start thinking about what actually happens when I go into start ArcGIS Pro. And that's where I switch over and get more granular with what we call the micro workflows. And to do that, we take advantage of something that Pro brings as well, which is tasks. So with ArcGIS Pro tasks, again, these are available out of the box. They are a set of pre-configured steps that guide you through the workflow or your business process. And really what they do is they help reduce mouse clicks and improve efficiency. So in other words, I don't have to go out there and say, I want to make my tax parcels the only selectable layer. I can have that set up in my task so that it does that for me automatically. I can also call geoprocessing tools from my tasks. The tasks themselves, like I said, are a series of steps, and then we use Task Designer to actually create those. And we are shipping with ArcGIS Pro 2 different types of tasks: administrative tasks and the record-driven tasks that I discussed earlier as part of our workflows. So with that, I'm going to step out real quick here and end my slideshow and show you what tasks actually are. So here I have a ArcGIS Pro project, and inside of here, in my catalog window, you can see I have tasks. I have Parcel Fabric administrative tasks. So a task in here to upgrade my Parcel Fabric for ArcMap to ArcGIS Pro. I have a task in here to migrate to a new Parcel Fabric. And then I also have tasks in here to set up my enterprise environment. And so you can see these task groups can contain multiple individual tasks. I also have the record-driven tasks. And these record-driven tasks have different steps for performing things like merging 2 parcels together, or doing a parcel split by parent parcel, or doing a parcel split by meets and bounds. And so let me just walk you through how one of these tasks actually work. So I can say, open the task, and the first thing it did was say, I'm going to create a parcel record. So as described earlier, this is a record-driven workflow. So I want to be able to put some information in here about what I'm actually doing. So I'm going to say merge tax parcel 50 and 60 together. The record type is going to be of type merge. I can have the recorded date, say today. I can specify an accuracy in here, just like the plan table that we used to do in ArcMap. But you notice I didn't have to do anything except start this task, and I immediately had this palette available to me in my task panel, where if I was doing this manually, I would have had to come up here and actually create a new task. So once I fill out that information, I can say create a new record. It's telling me to locate the parent parcels. Well, I'm already right there, so I can actually skip this task. And for those Parcel Fabric users in ArcMap that use task, you notice I can actually go back a step. Where in our ArcMap we weren't able to go back, we can actually go back in these particular tasks, as well as I can modify these tasks to include my own steps in between here. So if there was something I needed to add in here, I could add a step in between. I'm going to hit skip here, and now it's asking me to select 2 or more parcels. So again, it's automatically set me up in my selection tool. I didn't have to go find that tool. It put me in that selection tool. I selected parcel 50 and 60. I say next step. It automatically puts me into my merge dialog. It says, okay, these are the 2 features to merge. The layer that I'm merging, I can actually come in here and put in a ID. Oops, and hit finish. And it goes and performs that particular task. So it merged my 2 parcels together, walked me through that process, gave me some feedback and dialogue as I went through. But you notice all of that was right here within my task window. I didn't have to go search for any particular features. And you notice that with this, we are seeing historical parcels as well. So we have our historical parcels out there from the 2 merge that are keeping track of that parcel lineage for us. So if I go back to my task and I take a look at my parcel merge, I can actually come in here and say, show me this in Designer. And I can see here are the steps that I would take to perform the merge. Again, these are the ones that come shipped with Pro, but I could modify these to fit my own organization. And if you look at Task Designer, here's your general. This is where I can provide instructions. How do I want this to execute? Does it need to be a manual execution? Do I want that step to automatically run? Do I want that step to automatically proceed to the next step? How do I want this to run? If it's automatic, is it something that is hidden that the user won't be able to see? Or is this an optional step? And then as far as choosing the actions and how I would perform this, here I'm actually creating a new record. And so I can choose what actions I want to perform by going out there. Oops. Let me do this again. And choosing from all the different commands inside of Pro, which command I want to use for this particular step. And not only commands, I can also choose geoprocessing tools. So if there's a certain geoprocessing tool I want to use, or if it's a certain script that I've customized for my own organization, I can make that as part of the task. So we've really given you the flexibility to come in here and design your workflows at the granular level to help your editors with their day-to-day tasks. All right, I'm going to jump back over to my PowerPoint. Here we go. So far, I've talked a little bit about how we've gotten here today. We've built upon everything that we've done in the past, the strengths that were in each previous version. We've had the COGO coverages and brought what that had. We had the information model with that we implemented in the local government information model with the ArcMap parcel fabric, and taking that into the next generation. A big component, and Brent touched upon this, is not just maintaining the parcels, but then interacting or integrating those parcels with other business systems. So there's a lot of different integration points. There's the recorder system that actually stores most of the information that we use in our land records, right? That's where we get our deeds, our plats from. We have the CAMA system, which stands for Computer Aided Mass Appraisal, that stores all the property characteristics. So not only do I have a property, a parcel out there, it has a house on it, it has detached structures on it, it has a swimming pool, there's a value associated with each one of those. And then we also have land information systems, which may be something more that you see in a lease environment, like such as an oil and gas lease, where we start keeping track of who we're leasing this information to, the start date of the lease, the end date of the lease, any monetary funds that are associated with that lease that need to be paid out, and so on. So these different systems are things that we need to interact with. And traditionally, the way this was done is through what we call a ETL process, or extract, translate, and load. So we would have our parcel maintenance application out there, and we would have our assessment, our tax system, our land information system out there, and we would write some sort of export from that system and an export from our parcel system, and we would put it together with a script and then publish that information so that all our other applications could get a hold of this, whether that be a web app or a mobile application, or even a desktop application into another business system. That information was made available through that ETL process. The problems with that is it was only as good as our last export. So any changes that were done in the assessment system or in our parcels weren't reflected until we actually performed that export again. So with the Pro Parcel Fabric, this is built upon the SOA, or service-oriented architecture. And so what this allows us to do is really allows us to start bringing in the integration with these other business systems. And we would do this through the REST API. So what does that actually look like? So since there is a REST API out there, as from a business system, I can call and have certain actions perform against my parcel fabric. Likewise, if the business system supports a service call, I can call certain functionality from my parcel fabric up to my business system. And as this is published, it's always live. There's no need to ETL this information. So if there is something that happens in my parcel fabric, that information is immediately reflected, it's live, and can be immediately seen to my different applications. Now, some may ask, how does that affect my business rule that I only show parcels that were on the ground as of January 1st of the current tax year? Well, because we're using branch versioning as part of our parcel fabric, that has a time component. So you would easily be able to say, I only need to show parcels that are within my system as of a certain date. So we can filter out anything that's current, but still have those current parcels available to, say, the tax appraisers within my organization, so that they can see the latest information and how the parcel fabric is evolving. So let's take a look at this in an example. So let's say we have a transaction 123 that's recorded in the business system, and we know that that transaction type is parcel merge. So the business system can actually use the REST API and create a version in the GIS called 123. And then it uses that REST call to create a record 123 in the GIS as well. So the business system identified that the parent parcels A and B should be merged into parcel C. Again, it would use the REST to call a merge of A and B into parcel C. So automatically the GIS will take A and B, retire it, C is created, and the record geometry is updated. In Pro, we have something known as attribute rules. We could actually set up the attribute rules to do something, maybe call a REST that looks at the stated area and the stated area units and validate that against the business system. So we could actually compare the stated area to the shape area to the calculated area to see, how close are we between these three. We can also check for the topological integrity. For example, that these parcels must not overlap with its neighboring parcels. And then we can just check for the parcel geometry integrity. Once this is all done, the business system checks for error features in the record extent, and we're done. So we've now actually joined or merged two parcels together without having a map technician in the middle of this to interact. So This is where the business system and the parcel fabric, the integration points with the REST API, we're really trying to closely integrate to make our lives a lot easier. The other thing that we're bringing, we talked a little bit about a 4D control, time. We have 2D, but we're also looking at 3D, and we're really looking at pursuing the support of legislative 3D cadastre. So not just that we can see a building represented in 3D, but that there's certain regulation ordinances and laws that describe how to actually map a 3D parcel. We're designing this to support your specific requirements. A lot of different requirements that are out there. Are we talking about absolute, such as orthometric or ellipsoidal heights? Are we talking about relative? Relative to what? Relative to sea level? Relative to ground level? Are we talking an attribute based, such as it's the 17th floor? And how do we know 17th floor relative again to what? And then what do we actually use? Are we using to the interior of the walls, to the middle of the ceiling or floor? And then how are we going to control 3D benchmarks? So let's take an example of where we're trying to head with this. If we take a look at, say, a certain plat that's 3D, we can actually see that it is defining a lower elevation as 70.25 feet and an upper elevation of 79.5 feet. And then we can also see that each individual lot described on this document has directions and bearings as we go across here. So we can take this and enter this into the fabric. And what would that actually buy us? Well, now we can start seeing that building represented with true heights in a 3D depiction. Not only can we see the building, but we can also now begin to describe the air rights that go along with that building. So we have the actual physical structure along with the air rights, and we could go the opposite direction with this and go to any subterranean rights or any mineral rights that are below this feature as well. So we can start looking at this structure and start labeling the individual lot units and begin to actually see when we're looking at either doing an appraisal or defending a valuation that, okay, I am on a certain level of a certain lot, and we can start understanding how that particular lot may be more valuable than a lot on a lower level. And we can actually take advantage of some of the 3D tools that are available out there, such as this interactive plane view, where we can actually begin to slice through the building to begin to see that some of these individual residential lots not only span a particular area along a floor, but may actually be multi-story and span multiple floors. So we can see that lot 17 might actually be along these two particular floors here, or lot 19 be along those two particular floors there. So the tools that are available within Pro are available to use with the parcel fabric. Any tool in Pro will interact and work with the parcel fabric as well. So why did we do this? Well, we wanted something that worked out of the box. We wanted something that was going to be easy to migrate your data into. We heard all our users about the ArcMap Parcel Fabric and one of the challenges of getting our data into it. So we listened and we made this as easy to migrate your data in as possible. The other thing we wanted to do is make this easy to learn. If I can edit inside of ArcGIS Pro, then I can edit a parcel fabric. There's no special tools or anything that's needed. The tool sets that are in Pro are what we call parcel fabric aware. So that if I'm working with a parcel fabric data set, that tool automatically knows that and will provide you with the necessary tools and functionality to work against that parcel fabric. We wanted it to be efficient, hence the use of tasks. We wanted it to be scalable, again, going from a single user deployment all the way to 25, 30 or plus editors working out there. We wanted to make it quality. So quality management using the standard topological tools that are available to us to be able to find and quickly zoom and fix errors within our data. And then again, we wanted to make this work anywhere. And when I say work anywhere, not only on any device, such as a mobile device, but also be able to work from a web client or work from ArcGIS Pro, or as I discussed earlier, maybe from business integration system where we're actually using one system to make edits and calls to another. And then again, like I said, 2D, 3D, like I just showed, and then 4D with time enabled. So in July 2019 at the user conference, we released our first release of this, and we're looking at a 3-phased release plan. So UC 2019, we released the ArcGIS Pro 2.4, and its capabilities were with the record and quality driven editing workflows. And this benefits any customer out there that is maintaining a parcel data set, whether they're in the ArcMap parcel fabric, or if they're just using geodatabase topology or shape files or even CAD data. You'd be able to jump in with the ArcGIS Pro 2.4. So if you're using any one of those applications to manage parcels and do not perform least squares adjustment, you could jump into this today. Our second release, scheduled for User Conference 2020, is going to provide the improvements of spatial accuracy using measurements and control points. Many of you may know this as least squares adjustment. So that'll benefit any customers that are out there that perform least squares adjustment. So taking your parcel data and then adjusting it to fit a controlled network. So not only are we making our parcels accurate to the representation of the boundaries as defined by the legal documents, we're now actually locating that information spatially accurately to reflect what is actually on the ground. And one of the things that we're looking at as well is bringing your own least squares adjustment engine. So if there's a least squares adjustment engine that you're using now, you'll be able to take that information and incorporate that into your parcel fabric. And then moving forward into 2021, we're looking at advanced and modern capabilities such as the 3D cadastre, digital submission, coordinate-based cadastre, and then the parcel lineage, where I can actually start saying, here is a particular parcel, show me the children that came from this parcel, or better yet, show me the parents that this parcel derived from, and be able to see that graphically and linked together. So our 3-phased approach, just in a different format here. Phase 1 with the current release. With Pro, we have map authoring, the editing and maintenance, and QA/QC. Since that is a live service out there, that's also available to our mobile clients right now for visualization. And also for any web application or executive dashboards, that same information can be seen from web clients. Our second phase release, UC 2020, we'll be looking at bringing in the adjustment component into Pro, and then from our mobile clients, being able to do boundary data collection and have that edit against the parcel fabric itself, being able to possibly do boundary resurveys, and also updating control points from out in the field and having that immediately update the parcel fabric from a mobile client, as well as being able to geo-enable those business systems and perform edits from a web client. So that will be coming this time next year, UC 2020. And then as we move into 2021, we start looking at the capabilities of the 3D cadastre and our parcel lineage, and also digital submission from a web. So where can I go to learn more about all these new functionality and capabilities? If you're not familiar with GeoNet, I highly recommend you go out there, join, and specifically you want to go out there and search for the land records group. And within that land records group, you can go to content And within the content, you can go to videos, and in those videos, you can see there's 2 that were posted here recently on migrating and administrating parcels with ArcGIS Pro, as well as managing parcels with ArcGIS Pro. Both of these are a repeat of sessions that took place at the user conference this past year. There's also some educational videos out here on how to perform specific edits, such as parcel splits from meets and bounds, parcel split from parent parcels, and merging parcels together. And these were all done by Jason. Also, I highly recommend you go out there and join our Land Records meetup. This is where you'll also get good information on upcoming webinars and seminars that will go deeper into different topics of maintaining and managing your land records. And with that, I think I'm going to turn it back over to you, Brent. I appreciate y'all's time. I hope you guys are excited as I am about these new capabilities that are in Pro. If you're hesitant, I can tell you that I recommend you installing Pro. It'll install on the same computer that you have your ArcMap on. It can sit side by side. And I say you give it a day or 2, and you're not going to want to go back to using ArcMap. You're just going to love the new capabilities that are in Pro.
All right, Dan. Hey, thanks a lot. We got a couple questions for you. Before we get to the questions, though, at the end of this webinar, there'll be a short survey. Please fill this out. This helps us guide our future webinars and kind of tell us if we're doing all right or if we're not. Here's a good question. There's a couple other 2 we might touch on that if we didn't answer them in enough detail. Sometimes I don't have enough time to finish mapping an area, and currently I can save my work but avoid publishing it for everyone to see. Will I be able to do that in Pro, or will it auto update any work I do?
No, it's just like you would be doing today. You would be working in a versioned environment. So I create my version. I begin, maybe it's a very large plat that has, say, 300 lots in it. I can begin co-going that information in. It may take me several days. So I can save my work, quit Pro, come back the next day, start back up, go into my version and continue working. Only until I reconcile and post that version is it going to be available to everybody else to see.
All right, good. And just to add to that, you'll hear a term called branch versioning, which is the new type of versioning. All that really means is versioning with web services as opposed to versioning with the old SDE environment. So if you hear branch versioning, that's just versioning for services. Here's a question. I'll take this one. Is there a free open version of ArcGIS Pro? If you have ArcMap, you get ArcGIS Pro. So if you don't have ArcMap or ArcGIS Pro, then you probably have to buy something. But there's student versions, but there's not a free open version. Okay. Here's a good question, Dan. Will the 3D options be adjusted as we transition to new horizontal and vertical reference systems in 2022? I'll take a little bit of that, and then maybe you can dig into the rest of it.
Sure.
We are prepared for 2022, and actually we're prepared for GDA 2020 in Australia, which is one of the first dynamic datums that's coming out. So the adjustment engines that we're working on will not be available in the current release of ArcGIS Pro. So we are interested in very specific requirements that you have in adjustment. What adjustment engines do you want to use? DynAdjust, Move3, StarNet, whatever. And then what those requirements are of that adjustment. So if you want to add to that one at all, Dan?
Well, I was just going to say, we support the datums, as long as the datums are supported, the latest ones that we support, the functionality will work against those particular datums.
Okay, here's a good question. I'm really happy to answer this one because this lies at the core of the architecture of the new geospatial infrastructure. If I have Pro and access to the service, can I edit that? Can I edit parcels anywhere? The answer to that is yes. So because that's a service and ArcGIS Pro edits that service, you will be able to edit from parcels from anywhere. Now, upcoming, we'll be releasing an API so you can use other clients to edit parcels as well. So if you wanted to use a different parcel editor than ArcGIS Pro, if it has the capabilities and can access that REST endpoint and do proper communications, then you can edit with another client. However, if you know the capabilities of ArcGIS, it certainly will be the premier editing client. Hopefully that answered that question. I'll let that cook for just a second in case.
Well, Brent, just think about one of our solutions that are out there, Parcel Drafter, that allows me to enter in the bearing and distance of a particular line to generate parcels. That works today against simple feature layers out there. And to bring it into the ArcMap parcel fabric, you have to actually run a script to bring it in. Think about with Pro, that client could work directly against a Pro parcel fabric since it's going against a web service. And we could do the same thing where we create the version from that client, enter that new parcel, reconcile post, and it is now part of that using the web client versus the Pro desktop.
Okay, perfect answer. Now, I think I know the answer to this one, but I'll let this one go to you, Dan. Will there be widgets in Web App Builder or Experience Builder to edit the parcel fabric?
Those are still to be determined, but I do believe that is on our radar as far as being able to have those functionalities and capabilities available so that people can, yes, use those clients to edit against the parcel fabric. But that's still to be ironed out, Brent. A lot of that is still in the works.
Yep, no problem. All right, Dan, can you explain the difference between Parcel Drafter and what a parcel fabric is?
Sure. So I spoke a little bit about Parcel Drafter. So Parcel Drafter is a web application that allows me to enter in the bearing and distance of a particular boundary line and basically COGO all that information into a parcel, or we're entering a traverse in. So that information right now resides, only updates and resides as feature layers in a web service. It's not a fabric. What a fabric actually is a controller data set that keeps track of what I'm going to call our different parcel types. So we're not thinking of just polygons and lines in an abstract sense. We're thinking of our different parcel types. I have subdivision parcel types. I have my lot parcel types. I have my tax parcel parcel types. I may have parcel types that are owned by the county, and I just want to keep those separate because there's a certain set of attributes only associated with those particular parcels. So the parcel fabric itself is this controller data set that keeps track of all those different parcel types, but then also keeps track of the rules between those different parcel types. So what is allowed? Can a tax parcel span multiple lots, or can a lot span multiple tax parcels? Can a tax parcel or a lot live outside of a subdivision boundary? All those rules are stored and maintained at the parcel fabric controller data set level. And that's what we use to actually maintain the integrity and the data quality and the record driven and the records of the land management system that we're maintaining. Does that make sense?
I think that's a good answer. All right. Here's another one. In regards to the management of historical data in the parcel fabric in Pro, how do we handle the situation where the map is several plats behind, yet we want to update the map to the latest recorded plat? Are we forced to enter all the historical plats to catch up, or can we somehow shortcut the process while clearly indicating that in the shortcut there are parcels before the parcels and after not directly related?
So
a little bit more to that. Let's see.
Okay.
Let's see. It's a long question. I can't seem to display the whole question, but I think I get the gist of it.
So the simple answer to that is no, you don't have to go back and enter all the historical information to get to where the configuration of the parcels are today. You can begin with the latest plat and enter that information in. And what I always tell clients is, as time permits, as we get more efficient and with our parcel workflows, hopefully we have more time to go back and say, we know that this parcel was derived from the merge of these two other parcels. Well, I don't have those in my system. Now I can go back and put those in and provide the links to the existing parcel. So I can build that history over time, especially say for a particular area that maybe be contentious with defending the boundaries and the valuation of an area. You may want to have that history built into that particular area, but you don't have to go back and build all of that to get to the current configuration of the parcels today. You can start with the current configuration and then build that history as you have time.
Okay, thanks. All right, here's another one. I'm a bit confused. I keep hearing that all of this is tied pretty heavily into services. Can I take my current non-parcel fabric layer and implement it in Pro without the online aspect?
So yes, you can do that with a file geodatabase. So that would be where it is a single use only. But for multi-users, so I have 2 or more editors out there, I am going to want to publish that parcel fabric, and then you take that published service and bring it into Pro, and then you guys will be editing directly against that web service. You won't be editing against the database. So in today's world with ArcMap, Brent, I connect directly to a database and I edit against that database. We are no longer supporting that. We will actually edit directly against the service that is coming from that database. So we'll edit that service, but not connecting to the database directly. And that's something that I think is a huge improvement. I don't need to know where that database exists. I just need to log into my portal, go to my portal settings, and I can see where my parcel fabric is and add that into my map. It abstracts that away from the editors. They don't need to know the location or the login for that information. Once they're logged into portal, they'll be able to access that fabric.
Right, digging into maybe part of the meaning behind that question is that your parcels don't have to be online. That can be all behind your firewall.
Yes.
Okay, so just so everybody knows, we have a few questions coming up here, and we're going to go over time if that's okay. I know if you have to jump, that's cool, but the rest of the questions we'll capture them in the recording so you can get the recording. We have a problem with someone logging into GeoNet. We'll take that one offline. I think it looks like JD's got that one. Okay, now here's a good question. The tax parcel viewer image in Brent's opening presentation shows how the parcel pop-up info box displays directly over the parcel instead of displaying in a sidebar. Is the sidebar option available now, or will it be in the future? I don't know the answer to that.
Yes, it is available now. If you go to solutions.arcgis.com and go to the latest tax parcel viewer, it does now, when you search for a parcel and it brings back the attributes, that information is on a sidebar now. It's no longer a pop-up, it's over to the right within the viewer.
Okay, now, so back to that services question. Matt says, the reason I ask is because we currently don't have portal. So file geodatabase is the way they should go?
Yeah, if they do not have portal available to them, yes, file geodatabase would be the only way that they could create the parcel fabric and begin editing a parcel fabric.
Okay. All right, Amanda from New York City. Hey Amanda, they're currently, is it necessary to migrate to the fabric in Pro if my cadastre is not in the fabric? What is recommended? I'll take that one. I'm pretty familiar with your data. I would take your data, a subset of it, and put it into the Fabric and Pro and begin to play with it and see what you think. See if the capabilities that you need are there. I don't think you need adjustment. If I dig into your question a little bit more, do I have to go into the current Fabric and ArcMap to get into the Fabric and Pro? And that's no. One of the business drivers of how we developed the Fabric and Pro was to make migration much easier. So if you have problems with your data, you can clean up those problems once you get into Pro and not necessarily need to clean those up before you get into Pro. Hopefully that answers that question. Okay, if an org is not currently in the Parcel Fabric, do you recommend waiting or doing this in Pro or converting to ArcMap then migrating to Pro? Okay, if you're not in the Fabric now, skip ArcMap. All right, there are benefits of going that route because it's a lot of work because you have a lot of data cleanup, but there's more benefits in going directly into Pro because there are specific tools for cleaning up your data in Pro, and you have all the editing capabilities in Pro to work against the Parcel Fabric. So if you're not in the Fabric now and you're considering it, go into Pro and give it a shot. That's what we recommend, and give us some feedback on it and see if there's major issues. We have a couple dozen organizations in the Fabric in Pro right now, and a couple large ones moving really quickly. So we're giving it the stress test and then the capabilities test. So please give us your feedback.
Along those lines, Brent, the videos that I referenced in the GeoNet, Amir does a real good job of creating a parcel fabric from scratch, adding a parcel type and appending the data in. So he walks you through the steps exactly how to get into the parcel fabric. It is definitely much easier than the previous version.
Okay, here we go. Am I able to begin building my fabric as a GDB fabric, then migrate it to an enterprise fabric down the road? If so, is this a difficult switch? Good question.
Absolutely. Yeah, you can begin building it in a file geodatabase, create your different parcel types, create your parcel rules, append your data into it, and then you can take that just like you would any other data set, move it into your enterprise, and then publish that enterprise, and then it would be available out there to use as Pro as a service versus editing it just against a file geodatabase. But yes, for prototyping, I highly recommend begin using a file geodatabase to do that.
Okay, I'm going to let it click for a couple more seconds, but I think we've hit all the questions, I hope. Scrolling up here looking. Yeah, I think we've got all the questions. Well, with that, I'd like to thank everybody for taking the time with this webinar. I'd particularly like to thank Dan for his time today too, because we don't often get much of his time. And as you can see from his presentation, his responses, he's a key asset on the land administration team. Thanks again. Please fill out the survey as you log off and join us for our next webinars.
Thank you, Brent.
Thanks, Dan.